Hello everyone, this is Adrian Messer with UE Systems, and I'm honored to be able to be a part of another Reliability Leadership Institute event. This year at Asset Condition Management 2015, I'll be presenting on best practices for condition monitoring with ultrasound. And really, the basis for this presentation comes from two common questions that we get asked from the field by first-time users of ultrasound for condition monitoring. The first question is, how do I set my baselines? So we'll cover two different methods. We'll discuss the comparison method and then the historical method. And then once we have the baseline set, another common question related to the baseline is, how do I set alarm levels? So we'll discuss setting a lubrication alarm. So it's the point where the decibel level has increased just slightly to represent a lack of lubrication. So then we can utilize ultrasound for condition-based lubrication, which we'll also cover. And then we can also set a higher alarm for when the bearing has reached a failure mode that is beyond just a lack of lubrication. So again, two very common questions that are very valid, mainly because we're going out for the first time using ultrasound for bearings and mechanical applications. And since we don't have any previous data collected, we don't really know if what we're listening to is good or bad or not. So related to that question, we'll also cover really the point where ultrasound has evolved to now as a technology due to advancements in instrumentation and software. And that's really making use of recording the sound of what we're hearing, whether it's onboard sound recording. Some ultrasonic instruments, we have the ability to actually view that in real time as we're out collecting data. But we can actually record the sound of what we're hearing, and we can then play that back in spectrum analysis software to where we get a visual FFT in a time waveform. And it paints a picture as to what it is that you're hearing. So we can then diagnose inner race, outer race, cage faults, or ball pass frequencies. So we can see well-defined harmonics, and we can then diagnose problems. So it's more than just, what do I hear in the headset? It's more than just trending the decibel level over time. But now we can get into more of the diagnostic part of what the failure is. So that will also be covered. And then as maintenance and reliability professionals, reporting and documentation has really become essential to what we do. You think about it, if you're going to make a call to shut a piece of equipment down or make a necessary repair, if you've got to consult with production to schedule it into a production run, you better make sure that you have the proper reporting and documentation to back up your findings. So we'll talk about some of the reports that we can generate with our ultrasound data. And we'll talk about some point-specific reports to where we can incorporate not only our ultrasound data, but if we're using an infrared camera, for instance, if we want to tie that in, if we want to tie in our vibration analysis data, we can also do that. We can tie in our sound file recordings and make a really nice point-specific report. We can also create alarm reports to where, really once we've gone out and collected the data, we're really only concerned about the points that are currently in either the lubrication alarm or the high alarm. So we can generate with just a couple of clicks an alarm report, and then we can also generate what's called a lube report. And when we start to use ultrasound for lubrication, really we're moving more towards condition-based lubrication rather than time-based lubrication, to where we go out and we grease everything based off of a certain timed interval or based off of just because the PM says, hey, it's time to go out and grease that piece of equipment. But now we're only greasing that equipment when ultrasound tells us, hey, the decibel level has increased to the point where I need some grease. So we can generate a lube route report to where now we only go out and we grease those points that are currently in that lubrication alarm level. And that brings me really to the last main topic that I'll be covering, and that's the concept of using ultrasound for condition-based lubrication, or we call it ultrasound-assisted lubrication. We also were fortunate enough to be able to participate in through the Association of Maintenance Professionals, a virtual SIG group to where we came up with a procedure for using ultrasound for bearing lubrication. And we're in the kind of the final stages of getting that ready, and once it's ready, hopefully in the next few weeks, that will be available for download on reliabilityweb.com. But it's a really good procedure that just gives you some best practices just so you can be consistent about it as to how you should use ultrasound for bearing lubrication. And it's really become a big application for the technology, and aside from compressed air and gas leak detection, it's probably the easiest application that you can use ultrasound for. So we'll talk about the fact that the majority of premature bearing failures are attributed to lubrication, whether it's over-lubricated, under-lubricated, using the wrong grease for the wrong application, or contamination, just putting dirty grease into the equipment, that initiates a failure mode as well. But regardless, the majority of premature bearing failures are lubrication related. So we'll talk about using ultrasound to prevent over and under lubrication of our rotating equipment. So again, hope to see you there. If you've never been down to Fort Myers, if you've never been down to the Reliability Leadership Institute, it's really a great place to hold an event. The weather is always beautiful down there in Fort Myers, so look forward to seeing you there. Again, I'll be there the whole week, and hopefully you can come and sit in and learn some more about using ultrasound for condition monitoring. Thank you.